Well, the question is not the why we're here, which is a great question, a whole other can of worms, but the how we're here, which is a huge question. But to break the ice, I just wanted to say that social observation you made in the last call about atheist people who are religious in a different sense really struck me because that seems to be the nature of man to kind of put this extreme conviction to something, and in the absence of, what we would call formal religion, something else may assume that role, if you will, and it can be false. You would definitely enjoy Stirner. He talks all about this. But moving on to the how this is, how is reality? How did it come to be? Now I'm familiar with the Big Bang Theory, and I'm no expert in quantum mechanics. That's for sure. I don't know if you are.
Definitely not. But I have at least a basic understanding of the Big Bang Theory and what cosmologists actually say about it, and not what people pretend they say about it.
I don't know what they pretend to say.
Well, there's a lot of people when they talk about the Big Bang Theory, they think, oh, it's just the universe just exploded one day, or that kind of thinking. And honestly, like most of that has to do with just the name, but you definitely hear, especially on this show, people sometimes they call in and they're confused about what exactly it means. So it can be a pretty common misconception.
Right. I understand how it's, I kind of understand it. It's this, was it expanding at the speed of light from the beginning, or were like the laws of physics different because of...
Erica's shaking her head. She's not ready for this. But I'll tell you this, Jacob. I'm not an expert. Maybe I'll have to get a cosmologist on. Actually, that's a really great idea. We'll do that. But when it comes to, there's whole books on this kind of stuff. I don't know how too in depth you want me to get in on this, but yeah, there's an expansion from what we can point back to at least a single point, and we can look at that based on, well, I say single point, but some people might disagree on exactly what I mean by that. We understand because we can see the universe expanding, right? Well, we have to wonder, it has to be coming from a place, right? So we are looking back and we can see it's coming from a singular point in space and time, and it may have been the first time was a thing, and there may not have been a time before that time, so it just kind of gets real complicated.
So actually that time really is the crux of my inquiry, because let's suppose that there is no motion of time until the Big Bang start of the universe.
I just heard a Big Bang right now. I think there's the start of the universe going on in my apartment. I'm sorry. Go on.
I wasn't going to say God, although, I know what you're kind of thinking of. You're probably thinking of the argument for God by proof of motion, I think. But that's not it. So what I'm asking is, wouldn't the information for the function of time have to be separate from material? Not unless time is something that is, and the information of all physics, for that matter, including the source that we really don't understand, like quantum mechanics.
So Jacob, I'm just going to say I have no idea how to answer that question. I really don't. What I will say, I know that, information seems to at max come across the universe at the speed of light, but quantum mechanics seems to disprove that in some ways as well. We may be able to have faster than light, information exchange. Well, right now our understanding doesn't give us that, but it might be possible. There's a lot of things we still don't know. about a lot of that, and I couldn't get into the nitty gritties with the exact equations on how this stuff works. So I don't want to disappoint you, but I also don't want to waste time with you answering a question I just can't answer, man. So, but
that makes sense. I'll ask a question that you can answer, because it doesn't require any sort of fancy quantum mechanics or anything. Yeah, I understand the audience also probably doesn't either. I certainly don't. So the question is, fundamentally, is the information that rules the function of reality, that is, the laws of physics, something that is a part of the Big Bang, which, that's kind of a weird.
Well, let's stop right there. Does the information that rules reality, is it a part of the Big Bang? Is that your question?
Yeah. Yes, okay. It is. It's a weird question.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I know you're trying to read. Erica, you maybe you have something? No?
I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, because from my perspective, I'm thinking sort of like, why is physics the way that it is? Like, why what information, quote unquote, decides that physics works the way that it works? And according to the very, very little that I know about physics, which would just be undergrad physics 1 and 2, there really isn't anything that does that. Like, physics works the way it does. Okay, that's just a part of our reality.
Right.
But I don't, as far as I am aware, there's nothing to say that there couldn't be a way that physics worked differently under a different set of conditions. It's kind of like,
they proved that in supercomputer simulations. Yes.
So I'm sure
that's not my issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I misinterpreted this. This stuff is definitely. I mean, I could tell you plenty about once we get here on Earth and what's going on with life and its spurring and things like that. But golly, some of the questions, the question you're asking here, I think would stump all but the very, very smart. And I wish one were here to help out.
Erica's great at telling you the typical diet of a bonobo, but maybe not necessarily the intricacies of physics and whatnot. But
I wish I could.
I want to end it on a positive note here,
if I may.
Well, I don't want to continue having a conversation that I just can't answer with you, but I just I don't want to waste people's time with this, but. I like that you're answering good questions. I think maybe we'll have to have a conversation on metaphysics in particular. And when you come back on to call, I'll look at some people. I'll try to see if we can get some physics questions answered on this show, because you're not the first person to kind of ask questions in similar vein. And out of all of my scientific understanding, that's one of the ones that's kind of harder for me to at least come up with something on the fly. I could read a book about it, but maybe it might not be, it might be harder to explain. So I'm gonna let you go for right now, Jacob, but thanks for calling in.
For you to prepare better, if I give you one proposition real quick, you'll be more prepared to address me in the next call. And that is information necessarily prior to the motion of time in order for the Big Bang to occur? Because if the information were not so, it could not occur, at least as far as I can tell. And so it's something for you to ponder.
Okay. I'll have to go back to this recording and listen to that again until I can fully comprehend what you're saying. But, until next time, Jacob, I'll try to find somebody for that. And we'll try to see if we can find some more answers. Now, I'm not sure even if that question or some of the previous questions were fully comprehensible even to a physicist. Like, I'm not sure if the wording there was correct.
I'm not sure about the premise of information, because information, quote unquote, is a very slippery term. I'm not saying the caller meant it to be. I'm just saying it can mean so many different things. Information with regard to what the colloquial sense of information is, like conveying some kind of meaning. information like in like computer code or information in quote unquote DNA or genetics. So God, what a good question. Like once we parsed out kind of the idea of like, all right, what decides the laws of physics? But I think it's a good question in the sense of like, okay, well, what's going to happen after the heat death of the universe? I mean, you're not going to
see that's kind of
give the tools to answer that.
See, that's a question of physics, but why physics is the way it is, that's metaphysics.
Yeah, fair
that's
enough.
Not even an observable science at that point. It's really just more philosophy and a bit more open-ended. Now, my opinion on metaphysics is I don't hold it to too much high regard. And that might be because every single time I try to read something about metaphysics, it just looks like a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
But just also because it's very speculative. And if we're not even taking into account observation of data at that point, and we're just kind of coming up with logical, premises based on, it's a bit abstract to come to any hard conclusions about anything. So
it is. And I feel almost like metaphysics is where we tell things before we can empirically observe them. Like before we have some means of empirically assessing, phenomena of one kind or another. I mean, I'm sure radiation felt quite woo before someone was like, hey, look, a Geiger counter. Now we can measure, this thing that we can't see or feel.
Yeah. Although, we at least had observable effects, though, when it came to radiation, though. Like, we definitely saw the effect. We just didn't necessarily know the cause. So that's
I'm thinking more like phenomena that we, like you said, that we can at least kind of experience empirically. So I think it would be maybe someday I hope we can get some excellent explanations for why people see weird things in the sky all the time. Maybe ball lightning or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think we might always see weird things in the sky, but that's because people aren't very good at reporting what they see. Maybe not necessarily, because there's that weird of a thing in the sky. I think maybe it's just a lack of information a lot of times, but regardless, I want to go